Hey, what's good, yo? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be going over draft prospects, safety draft prospects that the Texans should target. Obviously, our first pick is in the third round, so we'll be going over prospects from the third round to the seventh round. And this video might be a bit long, so I'm going to try to add like timestamps or chapters at the video so you can choose which prospect you want to listen to. So with that being said, let's get started. So the first prospect we're going to talk about is Darius Washington, and some measurables about him is that he's 5'8", 179 pounds, and some stats is that in 2020 he played 9 games. He had 37 total tackles and 4 passes defended. I think the year before that is way better for him. In 2019, he had 46 total tackles, 5 interceptions, and 2 passes defended. So what do you think about Darius Washington?
First off, he's definitely a little undersized, only at 5'8" and 180 pounds, but he makes up with that for his instincts. He's a very good tackler. He can kind of play the box safety role. He's also able to play single high and 2 deep, which is exactly what the Texans are going to be running this season in the Tampa 2. I feel like he'd be a pretty good fit. He can kind of get from sideline to sideline if he needs to. He's also kind of physical. He would get the job done. He'd be a great starting safety for any team.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, obviously his cons are his lack of length and height, but he did have a really good pro day. I think he had a good vertical, good 40 time and whatnot. Obviously those are unofficial, I think. So obviously they're pro days, but we have to see at the combine or whatnot. But oh, sorry, never mind. But yeah, his pro day was really good, and I think that like obviously another cons are for Darius Washington is that his eyes do get caught in the backfield, and he does get glued to play action fakes for too long, and he waits too long to see. Like his processing isn't too quick, but he does have some good instincts to kind of make up for it, and he does have fluid hips and things like that. So I think he will be an interesting prospect. He's definitely going to be around a third round draft pick, or something around those lines. All right.
Yeah, so he would be a really good kind of player. I feel like his best comparison would be a guy like Tyron Matthew, obviously not necessarily as good as him, but he's got similar measurables and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he could be a very top-tier safety.
Yeah, for sure. And he's definitely got that dog mentality, just listening to his interviews. And yeah, his game fits like a zone heavy scheme, which is definitely Tampa 2. All right, and the next safety that we'll be going over is Richie Grant. Some measurables about him is he's 6 foot, 194 pounds, and some stats from last season in 2020. He had 72 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 3 interceptions, and 5 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. So very, very good. I think. So yeah, what are your thoughts about Richie Grant?
He's a very, very good safety. He's very versatile. He's got great ball skills, similar to Darius Washington, but he's obviously a little taller than him. As you mentioned before, he's another kind of physical guy, and but his best scheme fit's really in a cover one. He can kind of roam free, kind of go where he wants to go, play in the box, and maybe a linebacker role. He's also played in the slot as a corner with his length and speed, so you can kind of plug and play him wherever you want.
Yeah, the UCF Knights played Grant in a variety of roles, like deep single high safety, split zones, man covered from the slot, and occasionally as a box safety. So he's obviously versatile. I mean, I know that people don't like that word when because of Bill O'Brien, but versatile. It's good to have some versatility, and so Grant does bring that, and he also brings good size and athleticism, and he doesn't really have physical limitations, like you said. And I think he could be a very good starting free safety in the NFL, but he just needs to develop better consistency with his tackling angles and things like that. And yeah. All right, so the next prospect we'll be going over is Hamsah Nasirildeen. Some measurables about him is that he's 6'3", 213 pounds, and in his 2020 season, he only played 2 games, and that was because he did tear his ACL at the end of late in the 2019 season, and that kind of sidelined him for all but 2 games in 2020. So that is an issue health-wise, but What are your thoughts about Hamsah Nasirildeen?
In my opinion, he'd be one of the best fits for the Houston Texans at the safety position right now. The Texans do have two starting caliber safeties in Tristan Reed and Lonnie Johnson at the moment, but our defensive coordinator, Lovie Smith, did mention a use of the nickel and dime package. I think Hamsah would perfectly fit the sub linebacker role where you can kind of take one of the linebackers out, let him play coverage. Hamsah can cover the tight end, even some receivers at 6'4" and 220 pounds. That's absolutely perfect. Something you don't see from many safeties. And he can cover all around the field, very physical. He's going to have to work on his technique a little more with his stature that he has, but he'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I forgot to read out his stats, but yeah, in 2020, obviously his stats weren't that great, so I'll read his 2019 stats. He had 101 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, and he averaged like a 40-yard return on those interceptions, and he had 1 touchdown from those interceptions and 3 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, and so, 3 forced fumbles, my bad. And yeah, so very, very good stats from Hamsah Nasirildeen. I really, he's like one of my draft crushes when I first saw him. And yeah, like you said, he has a really good blend of size, physicality, athleticism, and like downhill, like trigger off like the snap or whatnot, and very versatile. And so his scheme fit is projected to be anything. Like he's versatile, so he can play in any scheme. And his ideal role is projected to be some kind of positionless sub-package defender. But yeah, I think he can be really good. Some things that he could improve on are maybe some of his ball skills, obviously his health, and things of that nature. But very good prospect indeed. All right, the next prospect we'll be going over is Caden Stearns. He's 6 foot, 210 pounds, and some stats from him. In 2020, he played 7 games. He had 52 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 3 passes defended. And pretty solid stats. What do you think about Caden Stearns?
He's another kind of gritty player. He's an aggressive safety who's actually a really, really good run defender, only at 6 foot tall. You know, Hamsah obviously 6'4", another physical guy, but Caden Stearns does even better in the run defense. He keeps the action in front of him. He picks up his assignments. He does his job. He can be a leader on the team. Something the Texans need at the moment. They need talented players, but they also need leaders. They're building a culture. Caden Stearns was projected to be a first-round pick just last year. They're playing at Texas. Their defense didn't play very good. He didn't also play necessarily too great, but he has the talent. He'd be another great option for the Texans, maybe in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I like Caden Stearns. What I saw from his highlight reel, I didn't watch too much film, but from his highlight reel, he looked really good. Some cons about him are he does lack a bit of physicality when he is a blitzer. Like he isn't able to beat the blocker or whatnot. And he although he is a welcoming tackler, he is unable to build up like a lot of momentum like leading up to that tackle. So that is an issue, but he does have, obviously he's great on controlling his body and things like that. And he is like excellent, like allowing the eyes of like passers to take him to intended targets, and he's very fluid with his hips. And so I think he will be a great safety in this league, and his scheme fit is a versatile safety that can play both zone and sometimes in man. So definitely a great prospect. All right, so the next draft prospect we'll be going over is Tyree Gillespie. He's 6 foot tall, 207 pounds, and in his last season, 2020, in 9 games, he played 46 he had 46 total tackles, 0.5 tackles for loss, and 4 passes defended. So, pretty decent stats. And so, what do you think about Tyree Gillespie?
He's another hard-hitting safety. That's kind of a theme of this draft so far, is that these safeties have a lot of talent. The reason we're not seeing all these safeties in the 1st round projected, other than Trevor Moore, basically is the clear-cut #1 safety in the draft. Tyree Gillespie is another guy with a ton of talent. And he's an explosive, hard-hitting, and effectively times pass defenses. So he has the traits that you want in a safety, but can he develop? Who knows? So I would personally take him in the 4th or 5th round. The Texans kind of coach him up, put him behind the guys we have. But the talent is there. Fits the role of a safety / linebacker that I think the Texans need at the moment. I would also love to see him.
Yeah, so some analysts don't really project him to be that great of a safety, maybe as a depth player in the NFL, but he does have that NFL caliber athleticism, but just not to the degree of a starting role. But I think he is going to be probably available in those like later rounds, probably not third or fourth, but maybe like fifth or sixth, maybe around around those areas. And he does have some sturdy tackling, uh, and he is a pretty capable defender in his own regard, and he does have some snaps and special teams on kick coverages. So his ideal scheme fit is a split field coverage, and his ideal role is apparently a backup strong safety, special teams coverage unit. All right, the next prospect we're going to be talking about is JaCoby Stevens. He's 6'1", 216 pounds, and in his last season, in 2020, in 10 games, he had 63 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, and 3 fumble recoveries. So what do you think about JaCoby Stevens?
Stevens, like Hamsah and Stearns, have always had the talent there. Stevens, he's from LSU, who they've had great safety prospects like Jamal Adams, and he's just like that. He's a box safety. He's large. He makes plays all around the field. He's got good coverage. He's very, very physical, hardworking, very energetic kind of player. Similar, like I said, like Jamal Adams. But in the cover 2 defense we're going to be playing, put him in the nickel and dime package, let him play that middle hole, kind of cover the entire field, the seams. He can take it. And he's really, really talented. He was once projected to be a first-round pick, but kind of like LSU dropped off, so did he a little bit. He's going to work his way back, get better coaching, and that talent can be put on the field.
Yeah, I really like JaCoby Stevens. He was apparently a 5-star high school recruit that played both receiver and safety in high school. But then, although he initially played both positions in college, he switched full-time defense as a sophomore. And he does have terrific size, obviously 6'1", 216. That's really, really good. But some cons about him is that he does lack some range and anticipatory skills to play deeper off the ball, and so he doesn't always perform to his weight class, and his enthusiasm and pursuit can disappoint at times where he's passive or when it comes to tackling. But he could be a special teamers too. There's a lot of things to like about JaCoby Stevens, as you've already mentioned, and his scheme fit is apparently zone heavy, and his ideal role is going to be a developmental strong safety that frequently plays closer to the line of scrimmage. All right, so the next prospect we're going to be talking about is Cisco. He's 6 foot tall, 203 pounds, and in his last season, he only played 2 games, so I'm going to go over his 2019 stats. In 2019, he had 9 games with 65 total tackles, 0.5 tackles for loss, 5 interceptions, and he got 1 touchdown off of them, and then he got 5 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. So what do you think about Cisco?
Cisco is kind of a playmaker type player. You have to let him do what he's best at. He's not good at man coverage at all, but he is a ball hawk. He can make big plays in zone coverage, kind of a iffy tackler, but his best strength is definitely roaming around the field, picking up players in the cover 1, maybe a cover 3 where he's kind of on the roof, roaming around the field and making plays like he does.
Yeah, some cons about Cisco is that he did have an injury. He had a lower body injury that he suffered in September, which ended his 2020 season. So that could be an issue as to why Cisco might fall in the draft. And yeah, like you said, he's a ball hawk, but some people aren't too high on him because of his inconsistency when it comes to the run, tackling, anticipating routes in zone and things like that. So on a technique standpoint, he does have some room to grow, and he is kind of like a freelancer in coverage looking for a big play, but that results in too many blown coverages. But when he does make that play, it's going to pay off a lot. So obviously some kind of boom and bust kind of player, and so definitely interested to see where he falls in the draft. All right, and so the last safety prospect that we're going to be going over is Paris Ford. He's 6 foot tall, 190 pounds. And some stats about him in 2020 season: he had 70 games, 41 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, and he had, and 1 passes defended. So what do you think about Paris Ford?
Another big hitting safety. He can go all around the field and makes plays, can play in the box too, even at his height. He's still very quick and fluid. He can easily move around the field, sideline to sideline. He has great bursts of speed. He's a playmaker and a great run defender. But you have to remember, he did run a 4.9 40 time. Mac Jones did run faster than Paris Ford. And we've seen Mac Jones run around the field. It's not very fast whatsoever. When Paris Ford did run a little slower than him, so maybe he was suffering from an injury. Maybe that's just how he plays. But he's seems to be a lot faster on the field than he certainly is during his 40 time. The talent is there for Paris Ford. I would have given him a second-round grade right before his pro day, but that seems to have hurt his stock a lot. I'm hoping that he falls to the Texans maybe the 5th or 6th round based on what happened.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely fall because of like what you said about his. I guess some teams really care about that combine or whatnot, because as we saw like in DK Metcalf, he was an absolute beast in the NFL, but his combine, his 3-cone was like worse than Tom Brady. So obviously it didn't he didn't turn out to be a bust or whatnot. So obviously like it really depends on how much you value the combine. But Paris Ford, he's ultra physical, but he does have inconsistent angles. And he doesn't control his body well enough, and he does have some frequently missed tackles, and he also lacks some size to be a true box safety. But overall, he's a tone setter that loves contact. He plays aggressive, physical, and with a ton of enthusiasm and urgency, and pretty good ball skills and fluidity in coverage. So his ideal scheme fit is split zone, and he does have a chance to develop into a starting safety. So yeah, that's going to be it, wrapping up our safety draft, our favorite prospects that the Texans should target safety wise. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just keep note that these safeties are all really, really talented. And one thing is that there's really only one clear-cut safety, like I mentioned, Trevor Moore from TCU, but the Texans are not going to be able to reach him. He's going to go in the first, second round, as he should. But look for the Texans draft a safety in either the 4th or 5th round. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be their first pick, which is in the 3rd round at 67 so far, but kind of feel like they should get a safety. These safeties are all talented. They need a lot of coaching, and we should have a decent coaching staff with a clear-cut scheme that Lovie Smith is bringing. I'll be really excited with personally be Hamsah and JaCoby Stevens, just because I feel like they can play all around the field, and they can, once they're given a role, they will excel at it with really good coaching. And they're really great playmakers, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Nick Cassera didn't really address the safety position in the free agency, so I think it will definitely be like an early pick for us, like in the 3rd or 4th round. So, like you said, so all these guys that we mentioned are really good. I wouldn't really mind any of them as long as we didn't reach too hard for them, and there weren't like other good players on the board, of course. But yeah, these are all great players in their own regard. And let us know your favorite safety draft prospects. Did we mention them? Did we forget them? Or whatnot? But yeah, include in the comments. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank you all for watching. Peace.